Hey everyone, welcome in to another daily editorial here on the KE Report. I'm getting an update from Metalla Royalty and Streaming. We're going to be focusing on 5 asset updates within the company's royalty and streaming portfolio. One moving into actually declaring commercial production recently. Another asset, company at least, raising money to complete the build of that asset, and then a couple other permitting and governmental comments on those other assets. I am chatting with Brent Heath, CEO of Metalla Royalty and Streaming. Company is traded on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol MTA, also on the NYSE under that same symbol MTA. Now, Brett, let's start off with the Tocantinzinho project. We've been chatting a lot about G Mining Ventures that moved this asset into production, and recently they just declared commercial production. Now, Metalla is expecting first revenue coming in Q3 of this year, which is right now. So, Brett, what can investors expect out of this Tocantinzinho asset attributable to Metalla, and also any other updates on the ramp up at this mine, please?
Thanks, Corey. Yeah, so Tocantinzinho is going to be, or is kind of as it's ramping up, one of the largest primary gold mines in Brazil. It's operated by G Mining, which is one of the top tier mine developers in the mining industry. It, previously was who the large cap majors went out to hire. This is their new company, and they've done an excellent job bringing this asset into production on time, on budget, which rarely happens in this business. They hit commercial production. They announced that just a little bit ago, and they were in commercial production for August and September. So we will get paid based on the production of August and September in accordance with the royalty agreement. They're going to continue to ramp up here through the end of this year, and we're expecting a pretty significant year next year, according to their public mine plan, of probably producing over 200,000 ounces in 2025.
Now, Brett, just to remind everybody what this royalty is, it's a 0.75% GVR. So how does the company Metalla get paid from that production?
Yeah, so a GVR is a gross value royalty. So basically, it's a royalty that doesn't have deductions. So it's based kind of just primarily on the production. So based on their current production, we're expecting somewhere around probably about 1,500 gold equivalent ounces, 15 to kind of 1,600 gold equivalent ounces for 2025. For 2024, it's a little bit kind of tougher to pinpoint because they are ramping up. And so we'll have to see kind of what that looks like for Q4 of this year, but production starting, and we're expecting a full year of commercial production in 2025, which we're very excited about.
Okay, well, let's move on to the Endeavour mine. This is owned and run by Polymetals Resources. This is an Australian listed company under the symbol POL. This company, I think importantly, had a news release last week, September 16th, where the company announced they are raising a package of about $20 million US. They claim this is going to be enough to start this mine. Brett, take us through what's important here and how the company benefits when this Endeavour mine is up and running.
Yeah, so this asset that is coming back into production. So this was a mine that was previously in production. It's located in Cobar region of Australia, and we have a 4% royalty and a 4% NSR on this asset. Polymetals recently came out a few weeks back with an updated mine plan, pushing a lot of the production forward in the early years, and they still needed to raise the balance of the capital to get back in production for the restart. So that has now been announced, and that hasn't been kind of completed or closed yet. It will be in the short term. The company came out and reiterated that they're expecting production to start in the first half of 2025. So this puts a tighter timeline on and a bit more visibility when we should expect our first production through our 4% royalty on that property. Right now, according to their model and according to the company's public disclosure, we would expect probably around 1,000 gold equivalent ounces in 2025, potentially somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 gold equivalent ounces just for this one asset from 2026 through 2028. So this is a very, very significant asset. It's going to be if they can execute and if they can follow the mine plan that they've published publicly, it will likely be one of our largest producing royalties, and it's going to make a very significant bump in our revenue on the back of that.
Brett, just remind us, what's the company expecting currently this year, just in terms of gold equivalent ounces then?
So our guidance for 2024 was about 2,500 to 3,500 gold equivalent ounces. We'll probably look to potentially tighten that up for Q4 once we get the Q3 numbers in, and that's probably where it'll still end up within those guidance numbers. So you can see just Endeavor alone in 2026 basically kind of doubles the production that we're getting from all of our assets in 2024. That obviously doesn't count the additional production that we're going to get from Tocantinzinho, the additional production that we'll get from La Guitarra that also just recently started up, which will start to get paid for production in Q3 as well. Expecting a full year of production, and then obviously Amalgamated Kirkland, which we're still expecting that one to start in Q4 of this year.
Okay, so this Endeavor mine could be a huge addition to the bottom line for the company. We'll see how it moves forward, but boy, oh boy, that mine looks like it could be a great cash generator for Polymetals as well. Let's talk about Copper World. There was a permit that was received with plans to commence a definitive feasibility study on this asset. Bring us up to speed on this Copper World asset, please.
So Copper World remains probably the highest profile copper development asset in the United States. This asset is being advanced by Hudbay, and they require 3 significant kind of permits to advance this asset in production. And they just received the second one. They received the first, and there's one additional one that is required before they basically can make a final investment decision and advance the asset to production. They were able to get the key aquifer permit, and this is what was announced recently. They also announced that they are currently looking for a minority partner to help finance it, and it looks like with that, they should be able to engage in a final investment decision on this asset in probably towards the end of 25, early 2026, which would be incredible for Metalla and its shareholders, as this asset has in total a 44-year reserve.
Okay, so that one's a bit further down the road, but we all know how important permits are and how much the market has shifted towards permits. Let's now talk about the Taca Taca asset. This is a project run by First Quantum. This is in Argentina, and we all know how much Argentina is starting to open up and become a bit more attractive for investors in the resource space. There is a large investment initiative within that country, the recent report out of that country as well. So, Taca Taca, give us an update on this asset.
So Taka Taka, along with Copper World, is expecting to get their final permit before the end of this year. So our expectations, according to both Copper World and Taka Taka, is that both projects are fully permitted probably before the end of 2024. And that's going to be a very, very significant milestone, as once the permits are in hand, both companies can advance the projects into construction or make those decisions. For Taca Taca, there was a press release put out by the Salta government, and the Salta government met with First Quantum executives, and they discussed that they're looking at making the investment under the new regime that Milei just passed, and they're looking to potentially make that in 2025. So very significant potential update. This update was from the government of Salta. It wasn't from First Quantum, the operator, but we expect disclosure from them probably to come out in Q3 to provide further clarity on this. But both of these projects, which are huge copper development assets, look like they have the potential to get the green light in 2025, which would likely line up kind of a production start for 2028, and obviously that would be a very significant jump in gold equivalent production for Metalla.
All right, that's also some of the diversification that Metalla now has with some of these copper and more base metals assets. One other asset to talk about, CentroGold. This project was just acquired by G Mining Ventures. So again, circling back to G Mining that just built the Tocantinzinho project. Look, G Mining still has some work ahead of itself to build this asset. First things first, though, it looks like they are looking at updating the resource. Brett, please provide us a little bit more of an update on this CentroGold asset, please.
So this asset is called CentroGold, and it was previously owned by Oz Minerals, which was acquired by BHP. And this asset is also in Brazil. The property package covers over 100 square kilometers in one of the most prospective gold belts in Brazil. It's just an incredible property. The previous operator had a resource on it of just under 2 million ounces. Historically, there's been resources on it upwards of 5 million ounces. So G Mining, which was also the royalty that we have on Tocantinzinho, the same operator, as I noted before, we think one of the best operators in the business, acquired this project. And so what they disclose is that they're going to look to go in and basically put out their own reserve and resource on this asset based on kind of their own models. And so it'll be great to see what that looks like. And then over the balance of, we think, probably the next year or two, they'll start to work on some of the social issues that have been going on within that asset, and hopefully make good progress to go ahead and fix those issues so they can advance that project forward. But it's great to see a company like G Mining come in and pick this project up, because if anyone can go out there and really realize the full potential of this asset with just a ton amount of exploration upside, we believe, which is kind of what drew us to this royalty in the first place, we're really happy to see them pick up this project.
Brett, let's talk about the here and now for the company, Metalla Royalty. Just remind everybody, total number of assets that are paying you and that near-term growth. Which ones are growing over the next year? Which ones are coming online?
So currently we've got, for new producing assets, obviously we've got TZ and La Guitarra. These start production. Our first payments will be for Q3 of this year. Amalgamated Kirkland will be shortly after that in Q4. And then shortly after that, in the first half of 2025, we're expecting Endeavor to restart, which we kind of noted before. That's going to be a very significant potential jump in gold equivalent production. Kind of going out into 2026, there's potential for La Paria to come on, and a handful of others in 2026, 27, 28. So we should continue to see a very significant ramp up in production growth. Our existing assets, Wharf and La Encantada and Aranzazu, are doing very well. So those will kind of continue to be kind of steady state production within the portfolio. And those will kind of mainly combine with those ones that we just stated for the growth going out in the next few years.
Now, Brett, what about the potential acquisition strategy for Metalla in this market where, look, precious metals, especially gold, continues to run? Gold companies, miners are doing well. Juniors still seem to largely be struggling. What is Metalla as a company, your growth strategy outside of organic growth within the portfolio?
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of potential opportunities right now, and we're being a bit cautious and selective, but we are seeing a lot of opportunities. And so obviously we're weighing that against kind of the existing valuation right now. Like, we don't want to do anything obviously that's not accretive to our shareholders, and so we're kind of exercising a fair bit of caution over the first half of this year. And you can kind of see that as we haven't engaged in any transactions, but we do see the ability to continue to scale this business. And I think as we start to get a very meaningful tick up in gold equivalent production, which is really starting this quarter, the first payments on these new assets are coming in Q3. Q4 is going to be much stronger, and then 2025 is going to be a very meaningful kind of jump in production, and 26 as well, and 27 for that matter. So we see as these big long-term assets start to get de-risked and they start to get green lights, and the market can kind of quantify these things a bit better. We start to get kind of more real value as investors see more kind of short-term visibility on kind of the more meaningful growth, like a year or two out. And then obviously all these ones that are coming in production, they'll see that now. And so as the market sees that, we see potential for a very significant re-rate in our share price. Currently, we're trading kind of near the lows from a net asset value perspective and even amongst peers. And so with this growth profile, we really do see a very significant re-rate. And as that happens, I think that'll open up for more potential acquisitions and so forth. But look, we're going to be obviously looking at creative transactions, and we're going to be looking to scale our business and continue to scale our business, which I think the market is opening up, and I think we're going to have a few really good years here in front of us.
All right, there you have it. Brett Heath, CEO of Metalla Royalty and Streaming. I'll post a link to the company's website below this interview. Please, everyone, click that link and go learn more about all the assets in the portfolio. Send me any questions you have for Brett. Brett, thanks again for this update and your time. We'll chat again soon.